Go ahead, rock and roll, man.
Okay, very good. First of all, I want to welcome you to the Poetry and Music program. I really appreciate the fact that you're here, so I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. Please, come on.
Do you mind if I record also?
Absolutely, sure. I am a part of the Witness Protection Program.
Don't worry, I'm not going to vote.
This program will serve as a bridge between cultures. Despite all of our differences in the world, we all share a common need to do one thing, and that is create. Okay? Before we begin the show, I must introduce my accompanist, Mr. Fred Simpson. A round of applause. Very talented man. Moreover, I must introduce the other spoken word artist in this particular cast, Mr. Rob Scavone.
All right.
Very good. Now, he's a very talented individual, and he will share certain poems in their original Spanish form. Okay? That's a blessing. We're going to start the program with this. On March 14th, 2012, at the age of 67, the great Puerto Rican essayist, historian, radio broadcaster, activist, and poet, Louis Reyes Rivera, died. I'm going to read an excerpt from his essay, Inside the River of Poetry. Before I start, is anybody familiar with Louis? All right. You are. He preferred Louis to Louise, for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I always thought that was interesting. Is anybody else familiar with his work? No? Great writer. You should look him up. He used to be on WBAI. Yeah. Unfortunately, that station has changed considerably. Anyway, this is the essay, Inside the River of Poetry. Always there is a need for song. And every human has a poem to write. A compulsion to contemplate out loud. An urge to dig out that ore of confusion locked up inside. Poetry, you see, is as old as breath itself. For when human beings across the planet simultaneously uttered that first sound, they gave rise to the same echo heard in the wail of every newborn child. Thus, the birth of the word, the root of every language, poetry. The strength of the people, the finest manifestation of craft, content, and intent in every written and oral expression, the basis upon which all other literary genres have evolved. Thank you. Glad you could make it. In keeping with that essay theme, here's a poem about a child who discovers poetry. It is entitled A Versified Voyage. Another boy was raised at the Hudson River with a firm earth sign, a promising limb on an African tree, and the thinker, his archetype, sat beneath his unburdened brow. 24 seasons later, the child scrutinized the lost tribes, Jerusalem, Harlem. And like East 127th Street Shakespeare Langston Hughes, the boy embraced his race. At 54 seasons, the boy became a knowledge-consuming entity, learning about African rhythmic prose, odes, Bantu, Zulu, Malinke, Yoruba, south of the Sahara songs. The child travels the geography of his mentality with David Diop, Dadi, Césaire, and Senghor, poets who created the seeds that became Afrocentric breeds. To the boy, these poets were sight-igniting keys. By applying those keys, he opened doors to vistas, where black people were birthing a renown-bound future. eluding adults' brimstone sizzling stress. Beneath a dirt, antiquated tree, he studied comfortably and saw the spirit of the pundits. At 55 seasons, with his ever-present pen and paper, he was runner in a race inspired. Those were his sight-igniting keys. By plying those keys, the child in a page converged, and an aged griot emerged.